Hey guys, what's up? It's Charlie here, and today we're going to be looking at 10 animals who saved people's lives. So, all animals are amazing, but these animals go above and beyond. Some are pets and some are wild animals, but the thing they all have in common is that they saved people's lives. So guys, be sure to like the video and subscribe, and comment I subscribed, and I'll try to reply to all of you. So, coming in at number 10, we have beavers. This one is a sad, but at the same time, amazing story. In 2014, a Canadian boy named Réal Gudon went to a remote lake with his parents on a fishing trip. His parents went out in a small boat into the very large lake to fish, but Réal stayed on the shore. A little while later into his parents' fishing, their boat tipped over and his parents began to drown. And because they were miles out in this massive lake, Réal couldn't do anything, and he had to stand in horror as he watched his own parents drown. Nobody was nearby and the nearest town was over 20 miles away. Réal didn't have car keys and he was only 14, so he couldn't drive anyway, so he was stuck there. And it was nighttime in Canada, so he was about to get very cold, when suddenly he passed out because of witnessing his parents' death, which is the worst thing to do in this situation because it means you'll freeze to death, as you have no way to heat yourself up if you're passed out. But surprisingly, he lived. The reason why? Well, a group of 4 wild beavers had snuggled around him after he passed out, keeping him warm, and even though his parents tragically died, he was still thankful that the beavers saved his life. Next up, we have a pack of lions. So it's well known that in Kenya, there's a lot of gangs who kidnap young girls and sell them for sex. Well, in 2016, a 12-year-old girl from Kenya was kidnapped from her Kenyan village by 4 men. They took her to a remote location, but a pack of lions heard her cries as she was being held by her captors. The lions mistook her cries for help by a lion cub, so the lions ran to the area where she was being held, and her kidnappers ran away, leaving the girl to be eaten by the lions. However, instead of eating her, the lions began to guard her, and she was found about a day later with a pack of lions still protecting her, allowing her to survive without any other humans in a Kenyan desert for a whole day. So it's safe to say that these lions really did save this girl's life, even if it was by accident at first. Next up, we have Russell the dog. On September 11th, 2001, 2 planes hit the Twin Towers, causing the largest terrorist attack in US history. And while thousands of fire and medical personnel saved people from fire and the collapse of the towers, another unsuspecting hero saved a man on 9/11. A blind man called Michael Hinson was working on the 78th floor of the World Trade Center North Tower. He had no idea what was going on when the planes hit, but his guide dog Russell knew what she had to do and led Michael down all the way to the bottom of the tower. And because dogs can't use an elevator, they had to take 1,400 stairs to get to the bottom, while smoke and heat surrounded both Michael and Russell. But that wasn't all Russell did. She wanted her owner to be 100% safe, so she let him down into a subway station and didn't rest until they were both underground and had no chance of being affected by the attack. Michael credits Russell to saving his life, and she was even awarded a Dickin Medal by the state of New York, which is for animals who have shown great bravery in crisis. I wonder how often those get given out. Next up, we have dolphins. In 2014, a surfer called Todd Endress was sitting on his surfboard taking a break from riding the waves. Then, all of a sudden, he was attacked by a shark which was swimming in the water right next to him. He was bitten on his back several times and huge chunks of his skin were hanging off. And because of how bad his injuries were, he was unable to swim back to shore, and he began to realize he was going to die. Until all of a sudden, a group of dolphins appeared and began to attack the shark. The dolphins hit the shark and then circled him, and he thought he was going to be attacked by the dolphins too. But no, the dolphins saved him and then swam off. Todd then managed to get himself back to shore and was taken to hospital, where he made a full recovery, and he still surfs today in the same waters. But doctors say it's likely that he wouldn't be here today if it weren't for his dolphin saviors. Next up, we have Milan the whale. In a Chinese SeaWorld equivalent, a show was being held with divers and beluga whales. The divers had a competition to see who could hold their breath underwater the longest. All of the divers eventually came back up, but one diver named Yang Young was unable to come back up. She realized that she was unable to move her legs and she began to drown to death. The audience and other divers began panicking, but then, in a shocking turn of events, one of the beluga whales named Milan swam down, grabbed her leg, and then pulled her back up, allowing her to breathe again. And afterwards, she was hospitalized and made a full recovery, and now owes her life to Milan the beluga whale. Next up, we have Ning Nong the elephant. Now, this story sounds like something from a book or movie, and this story is so crazy that it was actually the inspiration for a book. In 2004, a devastating tsunami occurred in Thailand on Boxing Day. Hundreds died and thousands lost their homes. However, the press was fascinated by one story of hope. A 6-year-old English girl named Amber Rose was riding an elephant called Ning Nong, who was there for tourists, and while Amber was riding Ning Nong, the tsunami wave hit, and because the elephant knew it was coming, Ning Nong put Amber behind her and protected Amber with her back, using her back as a shield to save Amber's life. Michael Mapurgo later stumbled across this story, and it inspired the sequel for Warhorse called Farm Boy. Next up is Stray Dog. A stray dog was wandering around the forest in Kenya in 2004 when suddenly the dog spotted a baby abandoned in a plastic bag. The stray dog took the baby and crossed over a busy highway and through barbed wire fences, and then into a shed where she placed the baby with her own newly born puppies. The owner of the shed later found the stray dog, the puppies, and the baby in the shed, and took the baby to hospital, where despite all of those things happening to her, she survived and was fairly healthy. Since then, the baby has been adopted by a Kenyan family and is now happy. I just hope the same is true for the stray dog. Next up, we have Monty the dog. The chances of getting struck by lightning are slim, but if it ever does happen, it's useful to have a faithful dog by your side, as you'll see from this story. In 2011, Ian Thomas was struck by lightning and knocked out for about 20 minutes. When he woke back up, he was unable to walk, so he called over his dog named Monty and wrapped his arms around the dog, and then Monty pulled him 100 yards back to his home. When they arrived, Ian's wife called an ambulance and Ian made a full recovery in hospital. But if Monty hadn't been by his side, he may have died, because they were walking in a very cold and deserted area when he was struck by lightning, and his body may have never been discovered. Next up is Winnie the cat. One night in Indiana, a woman named Kathy was sleeping with her cat, Winnie, when all of a sudden a gas-powered water pump in her basement broke, causing the house to fill up with poisonous carbon monoxide gas. And what's really deadly about carbon monoxide gas is that you can't smell it, so Kathy had no way of knowing. Luckily though, her cat Winnie heard the pipe burst and began to scream and climb on her bed. When Winnie finally woke Kathy up, she was dizzy and felt ill and knew something was wrong. She called an ambulance before she passed out, and her and the cat were taken to hospital and treated for carbon monoxide poisoning, where they both made a full recovery. But had Winnie not alerted Kathy to the gas, they would have died within hours. And finally, we have Mickey the dog. In 2011, a woman named Debbie was sleeping one night in her home in Idaho, when suddenly, in the next room, her pregnant 15-year-old daughter began having a seizure. Debbie had no way of knowing because she was asleep, but the family dog Mickey found her daughter having the seizure in her room. This caused Mickey to run into Debbie's room, jumping on her and barking frantically. Luckily, Mickey was able to wake Debbie up and an ambulance was called. Her 15-year-old daughter and her baby were taken to hospital, where her baby had to be delivered 2 months early. But miraculously, Debbie's daughter and her baby lived. So Mickey the dog didn't just save the life of Debbie's daughter, but also Debbie's unborn grandchild. And that just about wraps up this video. Check out the poll in the top right corner and you guys can vote for the most amazing animal on this list. But as always, thanks for watching. Check out some more videos on screen right now. Leave a like if you enjoyed, and if you haven't already, what are you waiting for? Subscribe.